Amarachi had just been transferred to the quiet town of Obinofia for her government job. She was a beautiful dark-skinned Igbo woman in her late 20s, with long braided hair, round eyes, and a slim figure that turned heads whenever she passed by. She walked with confidence and always dressed in bright-colored Ankara gowns, proudly showing off her African roots. Her new job kept her busy, and most evenings she came home tired and hungry. She didn't have the strength or patience to cook, so she began eating at a small local restaurant not far from her office. The name of the place was Mama Igbo's Delight. It was a small roadside buko made of wood and zinc sheets, with plastic chairs and long wooden tables, always full of customers laughing and chewing noisily. The first day Amarachi ate there, she ordered white rice and spicy goat meat stew. The taste shocked her in a good way. "Ka, who cooked this food?" she had asked out loud, licking her fingers clean. The woman behind the counter, Mama Igbo, smiled proudly. "No me cook am. If you chop my food once, you go come again." And Mama Igbo was right. Amarachi returned again and again. Each time, she tried something new: ogbono soup, fried yam and pepper sauce, bonga soup, and of course, her favorite, smoky jollof rice with fried plantain. She loved how the food reminded her of her childhood in Enugu, where her late grandmother used to cook with firewood. It had that same flavor, rich, deep, unforgettable. Amarachi became a regular customer. She would go there almost every day after work, and sometimes even before work. She would buy akara and pap from Mama Igbo's stall in the morning. One afternoon, as she sat in the restaurant eating pepper soup and nodding to the music playing from the small radio in the corner, her friend Kem, another civil servant, stopped by. Oh, Amara. You again. Every day not this Mama Igbo place?" Kem asked with a small laugh. Amarachi smiled and waved her spoon in the air. "My sister, if you taste this woman's egusi soup, your tongue go dance azonto. I no fit cook like this even if you give me one full kitchen." Nkem sat beside her and whispered, "But do you know how clean their kitchen is? You just dey chop food, you know sabi how them prepare am. No so people they carry disease oh." Amarachi rolled her eyes. "Abeg leave that talk. Are we not still in Nigeria? All of us they chop anyhow food since. If we go die, make we die happy." They both laughed, but Nkem looked worried. From that day, Amarachi's love for eating at Mama Igbo's only grew stronger. She didn't care to ask how the food was cooked. She didn't even know if they washed their hands or cleaned their pots. As long as the food tasted good, she was satisfied. But unknown to Amarachi, something dark was brewing behind the swinging kitchen door of Mama Igbo's Delight, something that would soon shake her to her bones. 3 days after her last visit to Mama Igbo's Delight, Amarachi sat in her office at the Ministry of Land and Survey, typing slowly on her old desktop computer. Her stomach began to rumble gently. At first, she thought it was hunger, but then the pain sharpened. A sudden wave of heat rushed over her forehead, and she began to sweat. She paused, leaned back in her seat, and held her belly. "Amara, are you okay?" asked her colleague Onedikochi, who sat across the room. "I think I'm fine," she replied, forcing a smile. "Maybe I just need to rest more." But the pain didn't stop. In fact, it became worse. Within the hour, Amarachi had visited the office toilet 3 times, and each time her body felt weaker. Her eyes began to turn, and her hands trembled as she held onto the office wall. Nkem, who worked in the same department, returned from the field and met Amarachi looking pale and dizzy. Amara. You don't look okay at all," Nkem shouted, rushing to hold her. "I feel like my stomach is fighting me," Amarachi whispered. Without wasting time, Nkem helped her into a Kiki Napep tricycle and rushed her to the nearby Obinofia Cottage Clinic. The doctor on duty, a calm older man named Dr. Okafor, welcomed them and quickly placed Amarachi on a bed. After checking her pulse, her eyes, and asking questions about her recent meals, he gave his diagnosis: food poisoning. You said you ate rice and stew 3 days ago, the doctor asked. Yes, at Mama Eagle's Delight, Amarachi answered faintly. Dr. Okafor frowned. You're not the first person I've treated this week from that place. Too many young people don't check how their food is prepared. That place looks neat from outside, but you don't know what's going on in the kitchen. Nkem turned and looked at Amarachi with a long, I told you so, face but didn't say anything. Amarachi's face turned pale as the nurse connected a drip to her arm. Her body was weak, but her mind was racing. Could it really be from Mama Eagle's food? But the food tastes too sweet. Too rich. Could something that delicious be dangerous? Later that evening, as the sun began to set, Amarachi drifted into sleep, still feeling the sharp cramps in her stomach. Nkem sat beside her, fanning her slowly with a piece of paper and whispering softly, I don't want to lose you, my friend. You have to stop trusting food just because it smells good. But Amarachi didn't reply. Her body was too tired, and her pride too loud. Amarachi was discharged from the clinic 2 days later. The drip had helped, the medicine had worked, but the shame still sat deep inside her chest. She didn't want to admit it, but Nkem had been right. She had nearly lost her life because of something as simple as food. Nkem helped her pack her things and brought her home. The small one-bedroom apartment in Obunofia looked exactly as she left it, untouched. The pots were still brand new, sitting inside the kitchen rack. Not one had ever been used. Her cooking gas was still wrapped in plastic. The only thing she used often was her fridge, where she stored cold drinks and leftover suya. That night, Amarachi lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Her body was healing, but her heart felt heavy. For the first time in a long while, her mind drifted to her past, to her home in Umwakano, where her mother used to shout every morning, Amora, come and learn how to cook this egusi soup. Oh. A girl must know how to cook. Back then, Amarachi would pretend to be asleep, or sometimes she'd sneak out to her friend's house to avoid kitchen work. Cooking felt like punishment. Her elder brother Chijioke would always say, you go marry food outside BA. Don't worry. One day you go suffer well. She used to laugh it off. As long as my money is complete, food will never be my problem, she'd reply with pride. But now, lying in that bed with her stomach still rumbling softly, those old words began to bite. Maybe her brother was right. Maybe her mother wasn't nagging. Maybe she was preparing her for a future Amarachi thought would never come. The next morning, she sat quietly on her couch as Nkem brought her a plate of hot yam porridge and placed it gently on her lap. You have to eat, Nkem said, sitting beside her. Amarachi looked at her and muttered, I'm tired of falling sick, but I don't know how to cook anything. Where will I even start from? Nkem smiled. You start from boiling water. From there, you learn to boil rice. Then beans. One day you'll be making your own vegetable soup and frying stew like a pro. Amarachi gave a small laugh. I'm not sure I can do it, but maybe I'll try. But even as she said those words, she wasn't ready to fully commit. In her heart, she still remembered how sweet Mama Eagle's food tasted. She still believed that one mistake didn't mean the whole restaurant was bad. Maybe it had been a one-time error. Maybe the real problem wasn't the restaurant, but her weak stomach. She didn't know yet that the sickness she had survived was only the beginning. A full week had passed since Amarachi was discharged from the clinic. Her strength had returned, her face was full again, and her skin had regained its warm glow. She was even back at work, laughing with her colleagues and catching up on missed reports. Everything looked normal on the outside, but inside Amarachi, a quiet craving had begun to grow. Every morning as she walked past the food stalls on her way to work, the scent of frying tomatoes and roasting meat filled the air. And each time, her stomach would dance a little. She would glance toward Mama Eagle's Delight, which was just across the road from the government office. It was busy as usual. Customers sat under the big yellow umbrella, licking their fingers and laughing loudly as they devoured bowls of soup and swallows. The sight was tempting. Amarachi slowed down as she passed the restaurant every day. She tried to ignore it, but it was calling to her. She kept hearing that voice in her head, "You just had bad luck that day. The food is still sweet." One afternoon, her stomach couldn't take it anymore. That day, it rained lightly, and the smell of fresh earth mixed with the aroma of Mama Eagle's stew was too much. Amarachi stood at the gate of her office, staring at the restaurant. Before she knew it, she had crossed the road. Mama Eagle smiled as soon as she saw her. "Oh, Amara. My customer don't disappear. Oh. Where you run go since?" Amarachi smiled awkwardly. "Mama, small sickness held me down. I dey better now." Sorry my daughter. You go chop your usual today. Rice and beans with plantain and pepper stew." She hesitated. Nkem's warning flashed in her mind. So did Dr. Okafor's words. But her stomach growled again. "Yes, give me," she said quietly. She sat at the same corner she always sat in, near the window where the air was fresh. She was served almost immediately. The plate was steaming, colorful, and delicious looking. Amarachi didn't even wait to say grace. She dug in quickly, enjoying every spoon. The soft beans melted in her mouth, the pepper sauce was perfectly spicy, and the plantain was golden and sweet. She licked her fingers. As she finished the meal, Obiora, the shy teenage waiter, came to clear her plate. "You're finally back, auntie," he said with a small smile. Amarachi smiled too. "I miss this food." She paid, stood up, and walked back to the office with a full belly and a satisfied heart. When Kem saw her later in the day, she frowned. "Where did you go during lunch break?" Amarachi hesitated, then whispered like a guilty child, "Please don't shout. I only went to eat small rice at Mama Eagle's. I'm fine." Nkem sighed deeply. "Amora, are you not afraid, after everything that happened?" "I was hungry," Amarachi said softly, looking down. Nkem didn't speak again. She just shook her head and walked away. That night, Amarachi slept with a full belly, but something didn't sit right in her spirit. A small worry began to grow. She didn't know that this was the beginning of something far more serious than the first time. It was a quiet Wednesday afternoon. The sun was high and harsh, and the fans inside the Ministry of Land and Survey were spinning lazily, blowing more heat than cold. Amarachi sat at her desk, trying to stay focused, but her mind kept drifting. Her stomach felt heavy, not painful, just uncomfortable, like something was sitting inside and refusing to digest. By evening, she felt bloated. Her hands were cold, her lips dry, and her forehead began to shine with sweat. Still, she didn't say a word to anyone. "Maybe it's just heat," she told herself. "Maybe I just need to drink cold water and rest." But by the next morning, it was clear something was wrong. She woke up with her bedsheet soaked in sweat and her stomach churning like a washing machine. She couldn't even stand properly without holding onto the wall. As she dragged herself to the bathroom, she barely made it before throwing up into the sink. Her whole body shook. Nkem, who had just returned from jogging, heard her retching and rushed into the room. "Amora. Again. You're sick again." Amarachi looked up quickly. I think it's happening again." This time, they didn't even argue. Nkem helped her dress and flagged down a Kikinepep to Obinofia General Hospital. The moment they arrived, the nurses could see the signs. Weakness, dehydration, diarrhea, vomiting. Dr. Okafor wasn't on duty that day, but another doctor, Dr. Chokuma, attended to her. After checking her vitals and asking her some questions, he sighed heavily and said, "This is very serious. She may not survive the next 48 hours without proper fluids and treatment. Her stomach is badly affected." This isn't ordinary food poisoning anymore. It's an infection. Nkem covered her mouth in shock. An infection? From where? The doctor raised his brow. She said she ate out again, didn't she? Nkem nodded slowly, her heart pounding. As they placed Amarachi on a drip and gave her antibiotics, her mind floated in and out of consciousness. The room swam in her eyes. She could see blurry faces, nurses moving, and her footbag swinging slightly beside her. In her sleep, she dreamt of Mama Eagle's kitchen, but this time, she wasn't in the eating area. She was inside the kitchen. Flies buzzed around uncovered meat. A huge pot of soup boiled beside a dusty jerrycan of dirty water. A woman scratched her armpit and dipped her hand into the pepper. She jerked awake in fear, breathing heavily. "Calm down," Nkem whispered, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now. You're in the hospital." But Amarachi couldn't calm down. That dream felt too real. The scenes, the smells, the filth. Was that a dream? Or had she just imagined what the kitchen really looked like? That night, as she lay on the hospital bed with a drip in her arm, Amarachi made up her mind. She had to know the truth. She had to see the kitchen. She had to know if Mama Eagle's food was killing people behind a curtain of sweet pepper and fancy smiles. 2 days passed. Amarachi's strength slowly returned, but her mind was restless. She lay in bed at Obinofia General Hospital, sipping warm water and thinking deeply. Each time she closed her eyes, that same image returned: the flies, the dirty aprons, the woman's armpit, the greasy spoons. It felt like a vision, not a dream. It haunted her, twisting her stomach worse than the infection ever did. She had eaten from Mama Eagle's place for months. What if that kitchen was always that dirty? What if the dream was showing her what her eyes refused to see all along? As Nkem helped her pack to return home, Amarachi whispered, "I want to go there. I want to see Mama Eagle's kitchen." Nkem froze. "What did you say?" "I want to see it for myself," Amarachi repeated. "I need to know the truth." Nkem looked at her like she had gone mad. "You just got out of the hospital, and you want to enter someone's dirty kitchen?" Amarachi's voice was low but firm. "Yes. Because if I don't, I keep lying to myself, and maybe next time, I won't survive." That weekend, Amarachi dressed simply in a wrapper and blouse, wrapped her hair in a scarf, and wore flat slippers. She didn't want anyone to recognize her. She wanted to move unnoticed. She rubbed a little dust on her legs and walked like someone running errands, just an ordinary girl in the neighborhood. She approached Mama Eagle's Delight from the back, where the waste bins and firewood area were. The air was thick with the smell of smoke, pepper, and something rotten. Her heart pounded. She kept moving. She reached the back door, a half-open swinging metal door. She looked around. No one in sight. Slowly, quietly, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. What she saw froze her. The kitchen was nothing like the clean front of the restaurant. Inside, the place was chaos. Unwashed plates were stacked in corners, some still dripping with leftover soup. Flies buzzed freely. Large uncovered pots sat directly on the black floor. Cooking oil had splashed all over the walls. Pieces of raw meat were placed on a wooden table beside a cut onion and a rusty spoon. A woman, short and sweaty, was stirring a pot with a long stick. She had no gloves, no apron, and no hairnet. Her blouse was stained, and her skirt was damp from kneeling over water buckets. Then Amarachi saw the chief cook. It was a large woman in a faded sleeveless wrapper, her armpits bushy and sweaty. She stood by a pot of egusi soup, stirring with one hand and scratching her chest with the other. She used the same hand to wipe her face, then dipped it into the pot again. Amarachi nearly screamed. She held her mouth and rushed backward, hitting a bucket and making a loud noise. "Who they there?" the chief cook shouted. Amarachi didn't wait. She turned and ran out the back door, her slippers flapping, her breath heavy. She didn't stop running until she reached the main road. People passing by stared at her in confusion, but she didn't care. Her heart was breaking, not just from fear, but from betrayal. She had trusted that place. She had defended that food. She had nearly died, twice, because of what they were hiding behind closed doors. As she sat by the roadside, panting, she whispered to herself, "Never again. Never again will I put my life in the hands of someone else's dirty kitchen." But Amarachi's story was far from over. What she didn't know was that Mama Ego had seen her. And Mama Ego was not a woman who liked people prying into her secrets. Amarachi couldn't sleep that night. She lay on her bed, still in the same wrapper and scarf, her face pale, her eyes wide open. Nkem sat beside her, fanning her slowly, confused and scared. Amarachi had barely said a word since she returned from Mama Ego's kitchen. "What did you see?" Nkem asked softly. Amarachi swallowed. Her voice was low and shaky. Everything they're hiding. That kitchen is worse than a refuse dump. The soup, the meat, the water, even the women cooking. Nkem, they don't wash anything. They don't even wash their hands. Nkem gasped, covering her mouth. "Jesus Christ." Amarachi sat up slowly and looked at her. "I've been eating poison with my own money." The room fell silent. The sound of crickets outside was the only thing they could hear. But just as Amarachi was about to speak again, someone knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. It was strange, soft and slow, almost like someone tapping with just 2 fingers. Nkem stood up and tiptoed toward the window. She pushed the curtain aside carefully and looked outside. Standing at the gate, under the moonlight, was a short round woman. She wore a large head tie and a long wrapper that swept the dusty ground. Her face was half hidden by shadows, but her voice carried clearly. "Tell that girl that what her eyes saw today should remain her business." Nkem froze. "Who's that?" Amarachi asked from behind. Nkem didn't answer. She was too shocked to move. The woman continued, "She should eat at home. She should mind her stomach. If she talks too much, she will see what talking can bring." And with that, the woman turned slowly and disappeared into the night. Amarachi rushed to the window, just in time to catch the figure slipping into the shadows between 2 buildings. Her heart beat fast like a talking drum. That's Mama Ego." "She followed you," Nkem whispered. Amarachi sank to the floor, trembling. "She knows I was in the kitchen." That night, they both stayed awake with the light on, praying quietly. Nkem read Psalm 91 aloud over and over, while Amarachi clutched her Bible close to her chest. By morning, Amarachi had made up her mind. "I'm reporting her," she said. "To who?" Nkem asked. "The health inspector. They need to see that kitchen." "Are you sure?" Nkem asked. "This is not Lagos, oh. This is Obinofia. People fear Mama Ego. She's not just a food seller, some say she has powers. She's untouchable." Amarachi looked down at her hands. "Then let me be the one to touch her. If I don't stop her, another person will fall sick. Or die." Nkem sighed and nodded. "Okay. I will stand with you." But what Amarachi didn't know was that reporting Mama Ego was not going to be easy. The town of Obinofia had its secrets. And Mama Ego was deeper in them than anyone could imagine. The next morning, the sun in Obinofia rose bright and hot, as if it had heard everything that happened the night before. The town looked the same, children running around with bare feet, women shouting in the market, men sitting under mango trees playing drafts, but to Amarachi, everything felt different. She tied her scarf tight and held a brown envelope under her armpit. Inside the envelope were photographs she had secretly taken the day she entered Mama Ego's kitchen, photos of uncovered raw meat, flies on stew pots, and a woman scratching her body while cooking. Nkem had helped her print them out in color. This is enough evidence, Amarachi whispered as they approached the Ogbonofia Health and Sanitation Office. The building was small, with cracked walls and a rusty metal gate. A signboard that once had bold writing now looked faded and bent. Inside, a sleepy-looking man in khaki uniform sat behind a dusty desk with his legs on a broken stool. He looked up lazily. Yes. Wetin be the problem? Amarachi stepped forward with confidence, though her heart was pounding. Good morning, sir. My name is Amarachi Okeke. I want to report a serious health hazard at a restaurant in this town. The man blinked. Which restaurant? Mama Eagle's Delight, she said firmly. The man's face changed immediately. He slowly removed his legs from the stool and sat up. Mama Eagle, he repeated. Yes, Amarachi said. I have photos. I was hospitalized twice after eating from there. The kitchen is not just dirty, it's deadly. She opened the envelope and placed the photos on his desk. He looked through them one by one, frowning. After a moment, he cleared his throat. Madam, this matter no be small one oh. You sure say you dey ready? Amarachi nodded. I'm ready. If you need a statement, I'll write one. If you need witnesses, my friend Kem is here. But something must be done. The man stood and walked into an inner office. He returned with another man in a green uniform, Chief Inspector Madu, a tall, dark-skinned man with a thick mustache and serious eyes. He picked up the photos and studied them silently. Then he looked at Amarachi. You say this is Mama Eagle's kitchen? Yes, sir. Do you have any idea who Mama Eagle is in this town? Amarachi nodded. I know. That's why people are afraid to speak. But I won't be quiet. People are dying. There was a long silence. Then Inspector Madu said, We'll inspect the place tomorrow morning. But you'll have to come with us, to identify the kitchen yourself. Amarachi's stomach tightened. Yes, sir, she said quietly. As they left the office, Nkem looked at her and said, Do you know what you've just done? Amarachi nodded. Yes. I've started a war. What she didn't know was that Mama Eagle already knew they were coming, and she had no plans of going down without a fight. By 7:30 a.m. the next morning, Amarachi was already dressed. She wore a plain brown skirt, a simple blouse, and tied her hair into a neat bun. She didn't wear makeup, and she carried nothing except a small bag and her ID card. Today wasn't about looking good, it was about the truth. Nkem insisted on following her. By 8 a.m. the inspection van from the Ogbonofia Health and Sanitation Office arrived outside Amarachi's compound. Inside were Chief Inspector Madu, 2 assistant officers, and a photographer holding a large camera with a white strap. Good morning, Miss Amarachi, Inspector Madu said as he stepped down. Good morning, sir. I'm ready, she replied with a deep breath. The van drove slowly through the narrow roads of Ogbonofia, passing curious villagers who whispered and pointed. Wetin dey happen? One woman asked as she balanced a basin of oranges on her head. No Mama Eagle dem dey go inspect oh, another replied in a low voice. People stopped what they were doing. Everyone knew Mama Eagle. Everyone ate from her restaurant. Everyone feared her too. When they arrived, Mama Eagle's Delight looked as normal as ever. Fresh pots of soup were boiling. Smoke curled into the sky. Customers were already seated under the umbrellas, eating breakfast. The smell of fried plantain and onions filled the air. But when Mama Eagle saw the inspection van park across the road, she froze. Her eyes met Amarachi's. She wiped her hands with her wrapper and walked slowly to the officers. Her voice was calm but sharp. Good morning, officers. What brings you to come my place this early? Inspector Madu stepped forward. We received a complaint about possible health violations. We are here to inspect your kitchen. Mama Eagle smiled tightly. My kitchen? Who report harm? I did, Amarachi said, stepping beside the inspector. Mama Eagle's eyes narrowed. So now you. You dey by the hand we feed you. This is not about pride, Amarachi said. It's about people's health. Mama Eagle didn't reply. She simply stepped aside and gestured. Follow me. The officers followed her through the side of the building. She opened the swinging door to the kitchen, but what Amarachi saw made her heart sink. It was clean. Sparkling. The pots were covered. The floors were mopped. The utensils were arranged. There were clean aprons hanging neatly. The buckets had covers. A fresh sack of onions sat on the corner table. Inspector Madu looked around, surprised. He turned to Amarachi. This is the place you said was dirty. Amarachi's mouth opened, but no words came out. I swear this is not how it looked before. It was filthy. The photographer took pictures anyway. The officers asked a few questions. Mama Eagle kept smiling and nodding, answering politely. She even offered them water, which they declined. After 30 minutes, the inspection ended. As the officers walked back to their van, Inspector Madu pulled Amarachi aside. You don't look like someone who lied. But from what I see today, the kitchen is clean. Without proof, we can't take action. If you ever find that place dirty again, take fresh photos immediately. Amarachi nodded slowly. Her face was hot with shame. Nkem placed a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, she whispered. You spoke your truth. You tried. But behind them, Mama Eagle stood at the kitchen door, her arms folded, her lips curled into a wicked smile. Because what Amarachi didn't know was that Mama Eagle had been warned by someone inside the health office. And this battle was far from over. A week passed. Amarachi tried to move on with her life, but the failure of the inspection haunted her. People whispered behind her back. Some laughed at her. Others warned her not to make enemies she couldn't fight. Even the customers at Mama Eagle's Delight continued to eat like nothing ever happened. She felt defeated. One evening, as she sat with Nkem on the front steps of their compound, watching children play football in the dusty street, her phone rang. It was Obiora, the young boy who worked at Mama Eagle's. Hello, she said cautiously. Auntie Amara, please, can I see you? I want to tell you something, the boy said in a trembling voice. An hour later, they met behind the small primary school at the edge of Obinofia. Obiora wore an old polo shirt and slippers, his face covered in sweat. He looked frightened. Auntie, I saw what you did. I saw you take pictures that day. Mama Eagle knows. She cleaned everything before the inspectors came. Amarachi's eyes widened. How? She has a man inside the health office. He told her before they arrived. She paid him. She pays a lot of people. But auntie, his voice dropped to a whisper, she does more than just dirty cooking. What do you mean? Amarachi asked. Obiora looked around before continuing. There's something inside her kitchen. A small black pot. Covered with red cloth. I saw her pour blood into it once. And anytime business is low, she enters the kitchen alone, locks the door, and does something. After that, more customers start coming. Amarachi's heart thumped. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because I don't want to die, he said, nearly in tears. One girl who asked too many questions, she ate from there and collapsed. Mama Eagle said it was malaria, but I saw her. Her eyes turned white before she fell. Amarachi stared at him, shaking. That night, she made a decision.
She called a journalist in Enugu she knew during NYSC, Chioma Eze, who now worked with a popular online newspaper. 2 days later, Chioma arrived in Obunofia, dressed like a customer. Hidden camera, small microphone, A mission. She ate. She smiled. She greeted Mama Ego. Then she asked to see the kitchen, said she was a chef doing research for her master's degree. Mama Ego agreed, but Kioma saw enough, and she recorded everything. 2 days later, the video hit social media. Exposed the dirty truth behind Mama Ego's delight: cockroaches, blood rituals, and bribery. It spread like wildfire. By nightfall, Ogbunofia was on fire with gossip and anger. Mama Ego's restaurant was shut down. The health officer she paid was arrested, and villagers began to come forward with their own stories of sickness, strange dreams, and food that smelled sweet but made their children weak. Mama Ego disappeared. Some say she ran. Others say she vanished. But Amarachi, Nonkem, and Chioma stood together at the heart of the storm. And they stood tall.
I hope this story was enjoyable to you. If so, do give the video a like. Tell your loved ones and friends about it. Don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories like this one. Goodbye.